Hello, everyone, and welcome to tomorrow for the 12th of May, 2024. Super glad to have you all here today. My name is Jared. I've got Donna over that way. I've also
I
got
I I, I I can't go over there.
I tried really hard. Um,
Let me fix it for you. There you go.
Thank you. I've got a Donna over that way. I've got a Ryan over that way as well. Hey, Donna, let's play. It should be like that shuffle game that they play at like
Three
baseball games and stuff.
three card Monty.
Yeah, exactly. We could do that real quick. Got them all around right here. Oh my god, you can actually do that. That's great. So we're super glad to have you all here today. Of course, you should, as we always get started here on tomorrow. Ryan, your shirt very relevant to what we like to get started with. So why don't we go ahead and just kick off with a little bit of X action?
First off, Happy Mother's Day.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Happy Mother's
What
Day,
kind of what
everybody.
kind of son are you?
Happy Mother's Day, all you mothers. So, yeah. So I hope you're having a good one today, and I hope you're going to do it. I got like a lunch dinner to go to today, so that'll be fun.
That,
Looking forward
that's
to it.
called
So,
that's called Linner.
Linner, yes, or Dutch, as I prefer to call it. I think
Dunch.
Dutch sounds way funnier than Linner. So just throw that out there with everybody. So I'll be going to Dutch with my mother. And fun fact, if you didn't know this, I'm adopted, so it's like extra special for me because they went and they said, "That one, here's $5 more." Ryan, let's get started talking about
Yeah.
X a little bit
Well, I
here
don't know why you're
today.
doing Mother's Day 2 months late, but anyway, each their own. So SpaceX has been busy over the last few days or so because they tested a ship and then destroyed the stand it was on. And it's a little bit of a historical stand, suborbital pad B, which was until probably 2 days ago the only surviving suborbital stand at the launch site at Starbase, because of course back in ye old day of 2021, SpaceX operated two suborbital launch pads, A and B, so they could conduct their hop or 12-kilometer hop in inverted commas tests of the earlier Starship prototype. So these pads have a lot of history. They're the precursors to the Starship program we know today, you know. And suborbital pad B supported some of those launches, but in more recent times, it's been supporting static fire campaigns of all of the ships that have gone to space. You know, Ship 24, Ship 25, Ship 28, Ship 29, and most recently, and its last, Ship number 30, which is going to be the ship for Flight 5, the fifth integrated flight of Starship. So it's very sad to see it go, but it goes in good faith because it's going to be demolished to make way for Pad B, orbital pad B. So they're getting rid of suborbital pad B and put it in orbital pad B, roughly in that area instead. And they need to get the suborbital tank farm out of the way, need to get the stand out of the way, and literally, you know, they took Ship 30 off of that stand, and then literally within the span of about 5 minutes, they were already got hammers banging away on this thing, demolishing it. You know, so Ship 30 was really kind of occupying this stand till the very end, and
I
they've made good progress now to get rid of it essentially.
I wonder if they needed a head start breaking it up, so they put a ship on it and hot fired.
Well, they did run the deluge system for that stand on it, so there was water suppression there. So I don't know, maybe they should have just left it turned off so they could, you know, dig themselves a nice little concrete hole for foundations for the new pad, for the new tower or something. I don't know.
Nick Trier says, for those of us on the correct side of the pond, things worth preserving are generally hundreds of years old, so why all the lamentations for the demise of orbital pad B, barely a couple of years old?
In Starship terms, it's prehistoric. It's probably the only thing still remaining at the launch site that's the age that's Starhopper is probably the oldest thing that's still at the launch site. I think suborbital pad B might then be the second oldest thing that's still at the launch site. Maybe the oldest thing that hasn't flown. I don't know. I haven't ran the numbers, but it feels like it at least. It's been there. It's been there for so long.
I do agree with his irony, though. You know, usually you Brits are complaining about or scoffing at us Americans about how we preserve old things, and there's only, 100 years old. and you guys have been around forever, and you're like, "Pfft, we've had this since the 1300s.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my fault your country's really young or anything, is it?
No,
Not
it's
not mine
not.
either.
I mean, I didn't start this, but
It's-
we definitely did. We definitely did finish it between the two of us, at least. So, yeah, Arvale does bring up a really great point, which is that we do have the Grand Canyon. So that's quite old. I don't know if you know that. So
We've got dinosaur tracks. I've seen them.
I've been around trees that are a couple thousand years old, but they're still alive. So does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have old stuff. We have old stuff here in the United States, and frankly, suborbital pad B there and other stuff like that, or orbital, yeah, uh, that's old. 5 years, that's old. So I'm surprised it hasn't been torn down and rebuilt twice at this point
We
with the way things work in
we
the United States. So
we have short-sightedly removed all of the man-made artifacts from thousands of years ago over here.
yeah, so that's why we're gonna. I'm sure that's why a launch site is gonna be around for forever. So we'll have to see how that goes, but yeah, that's what they got with with that. That's for sure. Uh, so Ryan, did we have anything else from X so far this week besides doing stuff like that?
Apart from demolishing stuff, they've moved. Basically, if you name a starship, it's moved. Ship 26 has moved. Ship 29 has moved. Ship 30 has moved. Ship 31 has moved. I think the only ship which is still where it is now than where it was at the start of the week is Ship 20, which has been at the Rocket Garden for like 3 years at this point, just resting in the sun after being used for fit checks for the first ship to be brought down to the orbital pad. So, yeah, the activity is ramping up because, of course, when they're demolishing Pad B, which was their static fire stand for the ships, they obviously still need somewhere to static fire the ships, which is going to be happening at their Massey site, which is just a few more miles down the road. So they have moved Ship 26 and a static fire stand down that way. And they obviously had to do that so that they can keep the static fire cadence up, because they need a stand to static fire on. They can't static fire the ship on the orbital launch mount because that's designed for boosters. They can't do it when it's connected to a booster because it's got a hot stage ring. Like, that idea has been brought up in chat so many times. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. So they need a stand to static fire on.
Elon doesn't seem like one who is particularly attached to physical things. Why do they still have the old starships around?
I don't know. I don't think it would have been Elon Musk's decision. I think maybe there would just be riots if they got rid of Starhopper or something. I mean, we thought that they might have been scrapping Starhopper earlier in the week because they were moving a weather station little stick thing that they used to have on top of one of the tanks at the suborbital tank farm, but obviously they're getting rid of that, so they moved it over and put it on top of Starhopper. And when we saw them descending on Starhopper with like all of this kind of metal machinery equipment, we were like, you better not be scrapping that space. There would just be riots. They just would. If you get rid of Starhopper, people are going to riot.
What if they took the metal from all of these boosters and made special edition Cybertrucks?
I don't know if anyone would buy that.
Really?
I mean,
They tell you about it.
There would probably be people. Yeah, you'd find out very quickly that they have one. So it's still not going to help.
You don't think there's overlap between Cybertruck lovers and Starship lovers?
Well, there's a sucker born every minute, so
Mystic Wolf would buy one.
Yeah,
People would tie themselves to Starhopper like they do with old trees.
Yeah, I could personally say I would not buy a Cybertruck made of Starhopper, but then also I'm not buying a Cybertruck. So
I wouldn't buy a Cybertruck without being made with Starhopper.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
you
and
see,
and, and that decision is irrelevant because I couldn't afford one anyway.
yeah, I can't either. So I was gonna say the single person to defend the Cybertruck is currently not here. Therefore, by default, she loses. So,
Right.
uh, so sorry, Jamie. So yeah, Hopper Cybertruck. It's today only for $200,000. Yeah, no, it's gonna cost a lot more than that. So yeah, I don't know. What, Tim did it? Tim's the one who figured that out.
I have no idea.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. So, oh, Mystic Wolf, that's cool. The Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago is opening a Dragon capsule display in about a week too. So that's cool.
Nice.
So, see, one of the places, the Columbia Memorial Space Center, where one of the places I work at, opens a capsule. Now all of a sudden, everybody's opening capsules. So, anyways, all I'm gonna say is we did it first, and we had very little PR, just like how Blue Origin flew New Shepard at the start too. So,
All of a sudden, it's done.
yeah, all of a sudden we had a New Shepard capsule for people to get inside of. So, Mr. Electric Car Lunacy saying Cybertruck is a great piece of grocery acquisition engineering, indeed. Or as we in the Jeep community like to say, it is an excellent ball crawler. So, very good for crawling those mall parking lots, amongst other things, with that there. So, yeah, cool. Well,
Is
anything
that it
else?
from
Because I
X?
think we had, yeah, I was gonna say it seems like a bit of a slow week from X.
It's been anything but it's too busy that I've forgotten a lot of the things that have actually happened. So I guess, I don't know. You'll just have to find someone's
Well,
YouTube video to watch on Monday.
how many bolts were installed? How many nuts returned? How many? Because usually that's the kind of facts, figures, and statistics we get from the folks watching our Texas tank watchers.
I, at this point, do not have a statistic of how many bolts returned in
Okay.
Starbase this week. I'll get back to you.
Well, I'm disappointed. So let me just be the first to say that I'm very disappointed in NASA space flight. You should. I feel like you should have a counter somewhere on the website that says that, and it's just like relentlessly ticking upwards. So, yeah.
Just ticks up once a second. Just keeps going up and up and up.
Oh, I bet it's more than once a second. It's just gotta be ridiculously fast for absolutely zero reason. So.
Everyone says moved half a dozen spaceships, launched 100 Starlings. You know, just a normal week for SpaceX.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe their Vandenberg launch this week was the 75th launch from Vandenberg for them, right? So,
Which seems, in the total number of 300 launches, not that big of a number, but that's like, how many times has anyone else launched from Vandenberg orbitally, like, total ever? I know ULA certainly hasn't done that in recent years.
no, ULA has not launched from Vandenberg for 18 months. So, and I know that because I was at ULA's last launch from Vandenberg. So, yeah, good stuff with that.
Wasn't there going to be a Minotaur launch sometime soon either? But I've seen that's also been pushed off. I'm not like Minotaur is a rocket that launches incredibly frequently, but at least it's something. A little bit of variety.
I mean, there's also supposed to have been a Firefly Alpha launch for like the past 6 months as well, and it keeps getting pushed off.
Well, you got one in December.
Yeah, Jared, don't get greedy.
Sorry. All I know is we have another Starlink launch tomorrow, so that's just kind of how it goes down. We're just apparently the place for Starlink, it seems, in there. So cool. Yeah, so I guess that's it. A very short segment on SpaceX this week. Rather unusual. I guess the unusualness is how unusual that is. But we did have something else this week that sort of happened as the weekend began. And that is that we are dealing with a very angry sun at the moment. Uh, so, uh, Ryan, you've been able to see the effects of this very angry sun that we have. Why don't you? Could you talk about it for a little bit, and then also, I think you've got some photos to share with us
Yeah,
too about what you
I'll
were
give
able
you
to
some
see.
photos to gawk at for a little while. Where should we go? Let's go with this one first. Oh, hang on. Boom! Look at that, pretty. So essentially,
Wow.
sun has been letting off some mass. Sun has been a little angry and it's thrown some coronal mass. It's ejected some coronal mass at us around the vicinity of Earth, and it's created essentially a solar storm, the likes of which we haven't seen since I think it's 2005 or 2003. So it's been a little while since we've seen something along the lines of this. And I've never seen anything like this in my life, ever. So this was pretty mad to wander outside and then see the sky is green and pink. And like, these are, I think the majority of these are going to be 30-second exposures. But still, the vividness of the colour in the sky from the aurora was just absolutely mind-boggling. And don't think like these images do look a little bit better than they did to the eye. That's just how cameras work. But they're not lies. This did look still absolutely stunning to the naked eye. But there's no other way to describe it. It was absolutely mesmerizing. You could look directly up and it just looked like there were these streaks and bands of color just kind of floating in the sky. It was just incredible to see. And you can see the different colors. There was a lot of pink, purple, kind of indigo-y, bluey kind of colors around where I was watching from. And for context, I'm at about 51 degrees north of latitude, and that's mainly the nitrogen. So essentially, the mass from the sun that blasts its way into Earth's atmosphere excites electrons within the atoms that construct Earth's atmosphere. So nitrogen will glow a kind of purpley, pinkish, bluey kind of color, and then the greeny colors, it comes from the oxygen in the atmosphere. Of course, oxygen making up not nearly as much percentage-wise in our atmosphere's construction as does nitrogen. So you see a lot more of the pink compared to the green, but you still got to see a little fair bit of green. Look at this one. Oh, what's it on its side for? I didn't do that. Anyway, you can see. Turn your head 90 degrees to the left. You can see how the green is kind of fluttering in and out of the pinks here. It was very, very pretty. And excuse me, just taking a drink. The kind of mad thing was just how visible this was all over the world. Usually, the northern lights, as is in the name, is restricted to the very poles of the planet. So your very northerly countries see it, your very southerly countries see it. You might see it in Antarctica, but you don't see this where I live at 50 degrees. You don't see this throughout the United States, but people in Florida saw this. 28-ish degrees of latitude, they saw it. That is 2/3 of the way down towards the equator from the pole. 2/3 of the northern hemisphere got to see this, which is absolutely bonkers to think about. And it just goes to show how big of a solar event this was, how much mass was ejected. This was, as I said, this is the biggest storm we've had since 2005 or 2003 or something. It's the biggest storm I've had in my lifetime. It's just absolutely incredible. And although it looks very pretty, this does have very serious implications, especially for big satellite constellations such as, I don't know, Starlink, which had to publish a message on its website saying that they are dealing with some problems. They're looking into it, and stand by for more information. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
a bit of PR talk for, our Starlinks are getting fried by the sun. We'll be back with you shortly. But
Yeah,
at
we're
least
looking into it.
we're looking into it. At least in terms of pretty colours. You know, even though electronics are getting fried, at least it looks pretty in the process, you know? At least it looks pretty in the process.
I still love that they're just like, yeah, we're looking into it. Like, yeah, sure. I'm just going to call up the sun real quick and be like, hey, could you take a chill pill for 5 minutes? So, I just so everybody knows, this is coming from something called solar maximum. This is a 11-year cycle that the sun goes through, where it basically reaches a peak of activity and then it drops off, and it ramps up, ramps up, ramps up, ramps up, reaches a peak and then drops off. So our last solar maximum during the early 2010s was not really a potent solar maximum, so there wasn't really much happening at that time. The one before that, in the early 2000s, the early 2 aughts, uh, there was some activity happening at that time. As you mentioned, our most recent storm, solar storm of this potency, was back was back in 2003. So it has been 2 decades
Mm-hmm.
since this year's curse light say the end of the world is so pretty. Mr. All Electric the Sun had a heck of a gender reveal party. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, if you get this, we're looking into it. So yeah, the Florida Keys got to see them. Even us down here in Los Angeles got to see them. I was going to pull this up real quick, just kind of to show everybody. This is from the. Thank you for that, Ryan. I super appreciate that. This is from the Mount Wilson Observatory, where they were actually able to see to the north uh, the aurora there. And I should have gone up to Mount Wilson. One of our coworkers at Griffith emailed us at like 1 in the morning that was like, "Oh my God, guys, get up to Mount Wilson! I came up here right now, and you can see it." And I was like, I gotta go to work. So, yeah. So I should have just basically told work off and got to it. So, but I do have to say, uh, props to that person who replied with that really great Simpsons joke, which is Aurora Borealis at this time of year, at this part of the country, entirely within your kitchen. Like that is pretty much what it's been like for the past couple of days for a lot of us with that. So very very studied, very very excited, and I am very hopeful that maybe I will go somewhere tonight to try to observe it. So it should be able to be visible at least at high latitudes, lower than usual latitudes for the next couple of days. I don't believe it's going to be as easily visible as it was on Friday night with that. So yeah, and
Yeah,
Chris,
and then you have clouds as well. Clouds don't help.
yeah, we're in the middle of our May, gray, June gloom phase of weather here in the Southern California area, which is basically when onshore flow brings in the marine layer right around 6 p.m. And it will stick around until about noon. Like it's still cloudy outside where I'm at right now in beautiful sunny Los Angeles. Uh, so yeah, so we get May gray, June gloom, July surprise, August. It's just kind of how it goes for the next couple of months here in Los Angeles. But a place like Mount Wilson Observatory is going to be at a high enough altitude, 5,600 feet, that it will be above this, and I believe that's probably what helped a lot with it. And, Sakura, I believe we're looking at what we should be seeing tonight. I assume. So, which basically, oh, look at that, it all goes away. Crap. Okay. Great. All right. Well, I guess I'm not going to go see it tonight. I guess it's decided to peter out. Thank you very much, aurorae. Good job.
But
I appreciate it.
this animation actually brings up something else that I was talking to my dad about yesterday. Just because it's daytime doesn't mean it's not there. It's still there. It's just bright outside, which means you can't see it. So
Yeah.
it's still there, which is something you should probably I don't want to make this all kind of doom and gloom and the end of the world kind of thing, but like that's a lot of radiation and solar mass coming our way, and we can't see it.
Well, we're
And
monitoring
if you get a Carrington level event, National Grid not going to be very happy. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are monitoring it. This is definitely not 1859 when the Carrington event happened.
No, but
so
still, it's invisible to the naked eye during the day. That's my point.
yeah, we still do have a fleet of spacecraft that are helping us uh, monitor the sun constantly. I brought up an image just now from Solar Dynamics Observatory, kind of showing you where the active regions are at. Sunspots are active regions. So why is this all happening? Well, first of all, the sun is not a solid object. It's a big mass of incandescent gas burning brightly in the sky, right? As that They Might Be Giant song goes. So it is. It's a big ball of plasma. And because of that, it's not really a solid object. So uh, the equator of the sun rotates faster than the poles of the sun do, and different speeds between it there. So it has something called differential rotation, which would make a mess of things if the Earth was not a solid object. Luckily, we are. No matter what you've heard here on YouTube, the Earth is a solid object. Uh, but because of that, the magnetic field of the sun gets pulled along and mixed together and wrapped up in those areas where it wraps up, twists up strong enough, it causes the density of the gas to lower itself in those areas. It doesn't get as bright and it looks dark, and that's how you get sunspots. And those are areas that are what we call active regions. Uh, and the one that's been causing all of this is the one over on the right, just about to go on the other side of the limb of the sun, active region 3664. So, uh, yeah, so it's been going. And what's so cool about it is we've actually been able to see it on our solar telescope at Griffith Observatory that we allow the public to look at. And it's huge. Active region 3664 is somewhere on the order. It was fluctuating between 17 to 20 times the size of Earth. That's huge. It was actually big enough that with eclipse glasses, you could see it. So it was wild with that. And yeah, this has been very, very cool to have an eclipse and then a massive solar storm leading to worldwide aurorae all within a month of each other. Like, dang, what a show the sun has put on to to make that happen. So really, really cool. So good going, son.
Hmm.
And then
And
Zach,
another thing,
I think Zach's got a really cool view there of the sun as well that we're looking at. So sort of how it's looking down there, you can really see the material in the magnetic field of the sun. So that's in
mhm,
case anybody wanted to know, that is an angry sun. That sun is
yeah.
not happy. So that sun is going to hurt someone, I think.
And we see solar flares, pretty regularly, but X-class flares, yeah, we still see them, but less regularly. And then something of this magnitude, pointing in the exact right direction in order to strike Earth in this exact way, that's where things start to become more rare. So next time you see someone reporting that the sun has produced a solar flare, don't think we're going to see this tomorrow night because it's produced another solar flare. Like, this is an extremely rare thing of a specific type of flare, an X-class flare, pointing at the exact right magnitude, pointing in the exact right location, where we will be in a couple of days' time when that flare reaches us. Because, of course, we orbit the sun and the Earth is round and we move throughout the universe. So you actually need your flare to be arriving at where Earth will be in 2 days' time, in 2 days' time.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was right in that sweet spot, and it really got poppy and spicy when it was in that sweet spot, aimed right at the Earth. So there you go. That's kind of how it goes, and I guess we'll have to watch it as it goes around the sun. I'm not actually sure. Mystic Wolf, have our telegraphs been fireproofed yet? Uh, I hope we've done as much as we can. In case you don't know what that is, Mystic Wolf is referring to the Carrington event from 1859, which is the strongest geomagnetic storm that we've experienced in recorded history, which fried telegraph lines, and there were aurorae brightly visible down to places like Cuba near the equator.
Oof.
So even all the way down into Colombia, right like almost practically on the equator. So you can imagine the Earth being bathed in aurorae. It fried uh, power and electrical lines all over the world. Uh, uh, with telegraph lines, there was actually I was just reading about it the other day because obviously we want to talk to people about this, just assure themselves that this is something to be afraid of. This is an entirely natural process that the sun does. That we're doing as much as we can to make sure everything's going to be okay. Run for your lives, go underground while you still can. Uh, that in Boston and Maine, there were two telegraph operators that were talking to each other during it, and they both, one of them said, "Hey, I've disconnected my battery, and my telegraph is still working because the electrical flux from the Earth's magnetic field was still delivering enough electricity to the telegraph to make it work." And he said, "Why don't you try removing your battery and seeing how your telegraph does?" Anyway, "Are you receiving me?" He says, "Yes." "Okay, well, I have removed my battery and my telegraph is still working." So they were talking to each other without their batteries in because electricity was being delivered by that event at surface. And then the guy in Boston goes, "Well, let's get back to work." Okay, so they spent 2 hours talking back and forth to each other doing their work without the batteries plugged in. So that's yeah, it's pretty
That's
wild.
crazy.
So yeah. All right, Caleb Crow, thank you for the super chat. I've been trying to find the X number of the flare for the last time in 1921 that aurora was visible to Puerto Rico. Anyone know or how to find it? I could definitely try to find it at some point with it. That might end up being like a members show kind of thing because that would require some uh, uh, hunting a little bit for that. So if you do want to become a member, you can become one today. You can go to youtube.com/TMRO/join and become one. And you instantly get in. It's literally just as low as 99 cents a month. That is it. And Neuropilot telling us all our ELF transformers are protected, or will our submarines think who we're under attack? I think they're pretty well. I think they know pretty well. So, yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy, for that there. So, yeah. So, Donna, did you have any opportunity to try to go catch the aurora, or was that a negative with that there?
No, clouds.
Okay,
Clouds last night. Clouds the night before.
gotcha. And Ryan, did you go out last night to take another check to see how it looked?
I didn't go outside. I did shoot it through my window, and I will show you the absolutely beautiful things that I saw. Hang on, it's just... It's just nothing. Absolutely nothing outside.
Not even a little bit?
No, nothing.
Man, that's not the best. But hey, you tried. That's what counts.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
You got to see it one night more than I did.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm not going to sound ungrateful here or anything. It's absolutely beautiful. Just would have been nice to see it again. Would have been nice to get fried with just a little bit more electromagnetic radiation, just hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And then Norman writes, so if we could bring that one up, thank you for the super chat. On that as well, Norman, but in those days, the telegraphs were on a continuous above-ground copper antenna, a few hundred miles long. I can't think of a better way to couple to a geomagnetic storm. Yeah, it was pretty impressive what it was able to do and how they were able to do that. Michael Dackett asking, did they need to hide under the blanket on the ISS? I have not heard. I feel like that would have made some news, and I hadn't heard anything. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
This, I don't think, would have had that much of an impact on the astronauts or on satellites, as in like the technicals side. but it would have had a bigger impact on the atmosphere, which would then, because of these electrons getting excited, which is an actual technical term, by the way, I'm not just saying that, electrons get excited, that would make the atmosphere thicker, which would increase drag, which would obviously make it easier for things to lose altitude, because that's how orbits work. So we've even seen plots, provisional plots from the Tiangong space station. Its decrease in altitude over time accelerated during the period in which the solar activity was at its maximum here in the atmosphere. So it's something we saw a couple of years ago, where SpaceX just launched a Starlink batch into a very low orbit. Then the sun threw a big solar storm at them. The atmosphere's viscosity, if you will, increased, and then the Starlinks burnt up over Puerto Rico, I think it was, just because they couldn't raise their orbits in time, because the drag in that part of the atmosphere, even though if you're at 200 odd kilometers, atmosphere still exists. It's very, very thin, but when the sun makes it thicker, it makes it more difficult to raise your orbit, and you'll fall, essentially, because that's how orbits work.
Mystic Wolf says NOAA Space Weather just released Region 3664, just produced another X-class flare, so it's still going.
Did NOAA specify which direction it was going, though?
I don't know.
We'll find out. Mystic Wolf, find out. Yeah, but if it is indeed coming our way, it's, time to get excited.
I was going to say, I think because of the position of 3664 currently, because it's on the limb of the sun, it's on the edge, probably not Earth-directed at this point. So, unfortunately. So,
we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe it'll do a U-turn and we'll go to Earth instead. You never know.
Yeah,
just a hard U-turn, real quick. But
you never know how physics are going to work. You can never predict that sort of thing.
No. Not at all. So I think it's important to remember that there are some elements of flares that do just go out into a wide overarching pattern for it. So so there will be effects Mystic Wolf is saying it expects high frequency to go dead. So yes, even though a flare will happen on the limb of the sun, like 3664 currently is, it will still cause effects, but it's not like how it would have been if 3664 was when it was popping off several days ago and giving us a spectacular show that we got to have. And Dan reminding us that sometimes physics is unpredictable, which is very, very true. Look at helicopters. How do they work? Nobody knows. So, Mystic Wolf, the complete loss of signals over the sunlit side of the Earth when it arrives. So, just in case you forgot that we have a sun. Mm-hmm. And just in case you forgot, the sun does affect us here on Earth, besides if you don't wear sunscreen, if you're
Daytime,
like the three of us here. If you don't have sunscreen, you will burn. So, or some of us who have been even more affected by the sun in certain aspects of their life. That wonderful year we all stayed inside. I got it. So that was honestly, in retrospect, hilarious. So a lot with the sun. We're just reminding everybody, go ahead and keep your eyes on the data coming down. Don't put your eyes on the sun. That's bad. And we're going to continue to monitor the sun, because this is going to keep going until about the end of the year, approximately. So who knows? There might be much, much more. We're already looking at a lot more activity than the sun was doing during its last cycle. So this is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited to see what may come. And I don't know, maybe we'll have a very lucky day where all of a sudden we get to enjoy a peaceful lack of technology for the next 20 years. So I don't know. So we'll have to see what happens. It wouldn't be that bad, but it would still be very, very interesting. The Caleb Crow just became a member. Oh yeah, magnetosphere for the win in your face, Mars. Yeah, that is very much something to think about. So, although where Mars is in its orbit right now, I don't believe it's anywhere near where it is. I don't think 3664 is currently Mars directed as it was Earth directed a few days ago. And Caleb Crow just became a member. Thank you so much with that there. So, very, very cool. But we did have, oh yeah, how are the Mars probes? They're fine, as far as I am aware, with that there. So,
yeah.
All right.
Again, even if it was directed in the direction of them, the problem with, say, Starlink here around Earth was that the atmosphere was causing the satellites to experience more drag. And of course, Starlink only works properly when you have multiple satellites talking to each other, and they can only talk to each other if they know where each other is. And when you introduce more atmospheric drag and suddenly the satellites start to move in relation to one another, you no longer know where your sibling satellites are, which means you can't point your lasers to them because you don't know where they are, which then means that the communications start to reduce there. So, yeah, it's not like the sun fried the satellites. The sun fried the atmosphere, which then made the satellites move a bit because drag, because physics.
You constantly have to recalculate where you isn't so that you can know where you is, because you know where you is because you know where you isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, we call that deviation. So, in case you're wondering, this is called error. So, there you go. Caleb Crow, I think was it Caleb Crow or who was asking? I can't remember who was asking about this from a 2015 paper. This is why I love all of you who watch tomorrow, because you are such a great audience, and there's no other audience like you, and how great you all are. But Kevin M. finding a 2015 paper, The Extreme Solar Storm of May 20. I think we had some reminders in the background that if your GPS isn't working today, just blame the sun on it. So that way, if you have to deal with your mother-in-law today, you can just blame the sun on it and look extra smart.
Zach was sharing a video and had audio.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. It's fine. So that 2015 paper, The Extreme Solar Storm of May 1921, observations in the model, put it at a X 1.4 flare. So X 1.4. So which was smaller than the flares that we were dealing with. We had a 5? An X class 5? Something like that.
I know it was a G5 because that's NOAA's rating of it, the max rating I think they give for the storm.
Yes. So the flares themselves are C, M, and X in terms of energy released with that there. So I believe there were a multitude of X class flares. Yeah, and then also just getting reminded today that a severe to extreme geomagnetic storm is possible again later today. So just stay in with it. So I'm actually looking at NOAA's website right now, and we are currently predicting with 95% confidence a G3 storm for the next 24 hours.
That's fine. That's nothing.
Yeah, we're kicking it, baby. So currently no solar storm radio blackouts, no solar radiation impacts, and no geomagnetic storm impacts as well. So, yeah. So what has been going on with this is that the solar radiation storm impacts have been relatively minor, while it has been the radio blackout impacts that have been moderate, and then the geomagnetic storm stuff that has been incredible in terms of its impacts. So, yeah. So there you go. That's what's up. So pretty cool. So thanks, son. Do want to mention that we did have an attempted launch on Monday of Starliner, Boeing's much. Man, I can't even. I can't even joke about this just because it's like just becoming. Yeah,
It wasn't Starliner's fault, though. It was
I know.
Atlas's fault. It was ULA's philosophy, as Toy Bruno told me. You know, the ULA's whole point is that we'll load the fuel, then we'll put the crew on the rocket, and when the crew on the rocket, we can't change the fuel. And essentially, the TLDR of what happened was there was a valve that started fluttering on the Centaur, and they couldn't stop the valve fluttering, because in order to stop the valve fluttering, they would have to change the fuel state of the Centaur. And they can't change the fuel state of the Centaur when they have astronauts on board. So they couldn't fly a dodgy valve or even attempt to stop the valve from being dodgy because they had crew on board, because that's their philosophy. And as Toy Bruno said, other people, SpaceX, do it differently. So, you know, maybe Load and Go is starting to show its promises of actually being a better scenario, a better way of dealing with these things. Put the crew on, then fuel the rocket, instead of fueling the rocket and then put the crew on. But yeah, each to their own. Now they're supposed to roll back, put a new valve in it, and then they're going to roll it back out and give it another go on May 17th. So this coming Friday is the current net date for Starliner again. So yeah. But they couldn't have caught it in a wet dress rehearsal, or it wasn't guaranteed that they would have caught this in a wet dress rehearsal, so they didn't actually do anything wrong there in terms of not doing a wet dress rehearsal for the Atlas, because the only reason they heard this valve fluttering was because they had people in the crew access arm, like the ground team and support teams there, who could hear this valve going off. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'd rather they'd replace the valve and wait a couple of weeks.
Was the valve rocket side or ground side?
The valve was rocket side. So they've actually experienced this kind of fluttering before. It was a liquid oxygen valve on the Centaur 3 upper stage. I believe Tori said that they have experienced this multiple times before, and then named Atlas 5 Booster 85 as an example of when this has happened before. But in those instances, they've launched satellites and not humans. And when they have satellites on board, they can change the fuel state of the rocket with the payload on board. It's only because they had humans on board this flight that they couldn't launch, because they couldn't change the fuel state with humans on board. Tory Bruno said in the press conference afterwards, if there was a satellite on board and not humans, they would have been in orbit already. So they would have. It was a very simple fix in order to stop the valve from fluttering. They just couldn't perform that fix with crew on board because it would change the fuel state of the Centaur. So, you know, it's this roundabout way of having to scrub because we're not allowed to change the fuel state because we fuel before and not after.
All right, fair enough. We got a super chat here from Norman Reitzel. Thank you very much. It says maybe Starliner ought to use a reliable booster, maybe one that starts with an F and ends in a 9. I don't think I would look at an Atlas 5 and call that an unreliable booster. Yeah.
I think it has 100% reliability or near enough. Like this upcoming flight is going to be its 100th flight, and I don't think it has failed yet. It's done every mission perfectly, albeit it doesn't launch as much as Falcon does, and you know it's not reusable. It's an expendable vehicle. But for what missions it has launched, it has done an outstanding job, and it's not unreliable. It's incredibly reliable. It's just a bit old, and it's just a little slow. And if you put Starliner on Falcon 9, what happens if Falcon 9 has an issue? What happens if Falcon 9, even if on a Starlink mission, Falcon 9 experiences a RUD? NASA is going to want to do an entire investigation into that vehicle before they ever allow humans to step foot on it again. So if you then have Dragon and Starliner on a Falcon, and you lose Falcon for whatever reason, then you're back to having to rely on Soyuz to launching US astronauts to the ISS. So then you negate the entire point of having two commercial companies on the same contract.
By the way, I don't think Russia's going to let you do that, honestly, at this point. Yeah, whoever's established that's going to fly now is going to fly on Soyuz. But if you would like any more additional seats, I don't don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
You don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and you don't put all of your baskets on the same rocket.
Yep. Yeah. That's what they tried to do with the space shuttle in the 1980s. So they mandated it as law that you were going to fly your payload, no matter what, on the shuttle, because it was the launch. It was the official launcher of the United States. Guess what happened? Challenger. And then guess what happened? They had to basically develop the Titan IV, and then very quickly speed up development of the improved Delta II, the 7000 series Delta II, in order to make that happen. That was expensive. All of that was expensive, and then the Titan IV ended up being expensive. So,
I had a colleague refer to the space shuttle the other day as the world's most expensive El Camino, and I can't unhear it.
I can't. That's a very good point as well. That's very. It is. It really is. If you think about it, it's a very expensive one. So, but yeah. So again, you got to have multiple providers for something as important as assured access for crew to your space station. It is. You can't just hand it off to a single person. Again, the example that I always love to use about this was commercial cargo. You know, we had two providers for a reason. You know, October of 2014, a Antares explodes, it shreds the turbo pumps on launch, and now we've got to find another way to get to Cygnus. But it's okay because we have a cargo dragon to be able to handle that. Cygnus gets flying again, and then in June of 2015, a Falcon 9 second stage decides to overpressurize itself and destroy itself in flight with the cargo dragon. That's okay. We have a Cygnus. Cygnus is flying again. It's perfectly fine. So again, you gotta make sure.
Yeah. And even during that period when Antares was offline, Cygnus could fly on Atlas. So Atlas 5, you know, theoretically, there's three vehicles there, Antares, Atlas 5, and Falcon at that point in time, which could operate commercial cargo flights. And I mean, technically at the moment, we're a little bit volatile because Falcon 9 is launching Cargo Dragon and Cygnus, at least is contracted to, for the time being until the new Antares rocket gets online. And
Yeah.
unless NASA would purchase an Atlas booster from Amazon, which is put aside for Project Kuiper, I don't think they'd really have any other option if something happened to Falcon to fly Cygnus on, because Vulcan isn't ready. Atlas is already assigned to Project Kuiper. They have 6 boosters assigned for the Starliner and then 20 odd for Kuiper. I don't really think NASA would have any options.
You know, let me just put it this way. I just kind of had a thought. So let me just put it this way. Everybody who's saying that everything should just go on a Falcon 9 is doing... So I'm trying to figure out how to say this correctly and appropriately because I don't want it to be misinterpreted, but I'm already going to say it on the internet, therefore it will be misinterpreted. But those of you who are wanting a single rocket to do this, and it's just only this rocket. I don't care whose rocket it is or what company it comes from or the name of it, but everybody who's like, just do one.
One works, right?
You need to tell me that you are okay with imagining the world in which the aviation industry has only had the Boeing 737 MAX. That's what you need to tell me at this point, that you're entirely comfortable with the idea of just putting all of your eggs / meat / people. Yes, Norman, exactly. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't. That's just not the way it works. You have to have multiple providers. The Department of Defense, I know, will certainly not allow what happened to them in the 1980s to ever happen again. So they will make sure that goes with that.
Yeah.
I can't find it in the chat, but someone earlier said that Challenger and Columbia were different because it was a loss of crew. Falcon 9 would be up and flying again super quickly because it, if God forbid nothing, I hope nothing ever happens to anybody, period, regardless of whether you're carrying people or you're carrying satellites. The last thing any of us in industry want to see is somebody lose a payload. And that is 100% true. I can speak for everybody that there it is. I can speak for everybody in the industry that no one likes it when another company has a major anomaly, simply because that means that there could be an anomaly that has been sitting in your rocket for a very long period of time, and you were just lucky before this company was unlucky. So, again, aerospace is a really weird industry. We're all competing with each other, but we're also all rooting for each other. The only the only places you see division and tribalism in aerospace is on the internet, pretty much. It really isn't something that exists in the actual industry itself. But no, a Falcon 9 would not be flying quickly after a anomaly that would run a vehicle because it carries crew. So even if it's a Starlink that it loses, like you said earlier, Ryan, boy, that
Yeah.
NASA would jump on that investigation and work it very, very quick, as quickly as they were willing to. But it is different when you are flying people. So Falcon 9, when it had its anomaly for, I think it was CRS 6, I think, or CRS
7.
7. That happened in June of 2015, and they flew again in December of 2015. That was before they were flying people, right? So that was 6 months between the two. Now that they're flying people, it would take a lot longer. So,
and that also depends on what the anomaly is. If it was something that they understood very well, and they were able to provide all the data and mitigation strategies and all that to the FAA, like right up front. Oh, hey, we've seen things similar to this. This is what happened. Here's the data, and to prevent this in the future, we're going to change this, that, and the other, and it's already done throughout the rest of the fleet. That's the only way you can turn that around so quickly. If it's something that they don't understand, if it's something that they didn't see coming, if it's something that they don't have data collected for, it's going to take months and months and months to figure out how to comprehend what happened and to rule out anything else that it could possibly be or reasonably be. And then you have to figure out how to not let it happen again. And if it's something that you've never seen before, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
I want to say
really
thanks.
It does. So, yeah.
Thanks to Dave Avery for gifting 5 Tomorrow Space News memberships. And
yes, thank you.
I think with that, we should close, Jared.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a wrap up by thanking all of our members here this morning. Sorry about that. Had to
Jared
switch gears.
stopped responding.
So yeah, I blue screened there a little bit. But thank you to all of our members, our ground support members, helping us out, and of course everybody is. Sorry guys, I'm just losing it over here. But bottom line, thank you so much for helping out. We appreciate all that you do to help us here at Tomorrow to make this happen. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, comment below. Engagement. Just make it happen. And of course, if you become a escape velocity level member, you get access to some extra bonus things like our Discord is free, right? You can just jump in our Discord anytime you'd like. But we have an escape velocity channel where you can see us say things to each other that we don't really say publicly too often, like the jokes that we throw around at each other, the incredible dad jokes that we have, amongst other things. So, on behalf of all of us here at Tomorrow, thank you for watching today. We're about to go to our members-only show, youtube.com/TMRO/join. If you'd like to become a member, you can do it right now and literally jump in, just 99 cents a month. That's it. So, once again, everybody, wrap it up here. Thank you so much. Have a good one. We're going to jump on over to our members-only area. See you later.
Thank you.